The 7 Lives of the Narcissist Part 1. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I'm providing you with another real-life example of a narcissist so that you can see the behaviors in action and increase your understanding of the way that a narcissist behaves, how they present, and their dynamic with other people. John Oliver told his young fiancée he was going out to pick up a new car, then never came back. Oliver was a 38-year-old British Airways pilot with a £30 million trust fund. He was renovating his £10.5 million townhouse in Notting Hill and planning to buy a holiday home on Millionaires Row in Sandbanks, Dorset. He designed his own Rolls-Royce at a garage in Mayfair and invited friends from a glamorous Soho set to his stag do in America and his wedding at the top of the Shard. But it was all a lie. In fact, John Oliver was Jodie Frances Oliver, an unemployed 45-year-old with a wife and 3 children from the Welsh borders. This individual is a fraudster with 7 different identities, which he used to pull off scams estimated to be worth more than £4.5 million, personally pocketing around £1.2 million. Over the past 2 decades, he has had a wife, 2 male fiancés, sexual fluidity, infidelity, and at least 2 boyfriends while pretending to be a police officer, a cruise ship captain, a Swedish-speaking car expert, and a friend of Boris Johnson. Thus, in the opening to this, we have an individual who tells lies, who exhibits grandiosity by massive exaggeration as to his financial circumstances and contacts, an individual that demonstrates the chameleon nature of the narcissist by pretending to be different individuals, and, in the circumstances, also demonstrates that sexual fluidity, which is necessary for certain narcissists to enable them to essentially not be choosy about who they engage with sexually, because it's all about the control and the fuel, not so much the sexual orientation. Last month, Oliver was sentenced to 6 years in prison for fraud and theft, the latest in a series of court cases. "You are a despicable fraudster," Judge Jeremy Jenkins told him. "The time has come to end the charade. The time for chances and leniency are over." Jodie Frances Oliver was born into a hard-working family in Knighton, a small market town straddling the Powys-Shropshire border. His father, Richard, 75, worked in double glazing, and his mother, Carol, 77, taught childminders. The family lived in a bungalow on a cul-de-sac. Oliver and his older brother Dean spent weekends selling knick-knacks at car boot sales and tinkering with engines. He was an unremarkable pupil at the local primary school in Knighton, where he met his future wife, Laura. Both went on to attend John Beddoes Secondary School. After leaving school, Oliver worked as a car salesman and a special constable with Dufford Powers Police. But then the lies began. According to those who knew him, Oliver forged a letter to the chief constable, faking the signature of a senior officer's name, commending Oliver's excellent performance. They said he won a policing award. Fraudulent behaviour, lie, exaggeration, clearly being done, of course, to assert control over the chief constable, to curry favour, to gain control, and possibly some kind of residual benefit. Around 2002, aged 25, Oliver married Laura, a teacher at a castle in Scotland. He set up the Advanced Driving School and Off-Road Experience, and eventually met Colin McRae, the champion rallied car driver. Oliver told McRae that he had got him a £3 million sponsorship deal with Coca-Cola. Lie, embellishment, done to assert control over McRae, to cause him to respond and provide him with fuel. He also told Chris Meek, a young driver, that he had secured him €400,000 with Ryanair, claiming he was a personal friend of the chief executive. Unsurprisingly, neither deal existed. Oliver used Coca-Cola-headed notepaper to fake contracts and invented executives who signed the correspondence. He later faked a solicitor's letter when the money failed to materialize. So what Oliver does is he makes an assertion about having secured sponsorship in the moment for the purpose of gaining control over them, and then in the next moment or moments later fabricates the notepaper in order to make his earlier assertion appear legitimate. For what purpose he did all of this, I'm not sure, said Campbell Roy, the business manager of McRae, who died in a helicopter crash in 2007. There was no immediate financial gain for Oliver, therefore an absence of that particular residual benefit. It was likely just an ego trip. Well, Campbell Roy, of course, isn't familiar with the narcissist and isn't familiar with the fact that Mr. Oliver, as a clear narcissist, was doing these things by way of coming out with these extensive embellishments, these outrageous porky pies, in order to make himself look good, so that he would then subconsciously have that control over the people that he was talking to, that they would be impressed by him, and that their reactions would provide him with fuel. He would be the centre of attention. They would be thanking him for what he had done. The forgeries were found by police on Oliver's computer. In 2004, he admitted 2 counts of using false documents and was sentenced to 200 hours of community service. Oliver lost his job as a special constable, likely the haphazard response of what he was doing, and in 2009 founded CoinSpinner, CoinDirect, and Bet Marketing, companies that supplied slot machines, pool tables, and games to pubs and cafes. Laura Colvin, aged 47, was one of his first employees, and she was working as an administrative assistant. He was always immaculately dressed, which suggests that he might have been a somatic narcissist because he cared about his appearance, with expensive watches, expensive taste being another hallmark of the somatic narcissist. She recalls how the Olivers went on fancy holidays, again, showing off by going on fancy holidays, somatic trait, with their 3 children, always had a new Range Rover, Audi or Mercedes, and lived in a large house, with a view over the mountains. He claimed to own the house, lie, but records show it was rented, again embellishment. He told colleagues that he was drinking buddies with Boris Johnson. He was not. Character trait acquisition and lie. That his father owned a casino in Monaco and donated £1 million to the Conservative Party. He didn't. And that he had an ancestral pile which he would one day move into. No records exist to prove this. On his desk he kept a framed invitation to Margaret Thatcher's funeral. This was forged, triangulation by object. He signed off his emails, Johann Oliver. Colvin recalls Oliver showering employees with gifts, bribery to assert control, and dinners out, asking them questions, collecting information, lack of boundary recognition, prying. He became a governor at his children's primary school. He wanted to embed himself in your life, she said. That embedding, of course, is part of the assertion of control that the narcissist would engage in for the purposes of ensuring that he was gaining control over the relevant individuals. By 2010, Oliver's company account showed he owed tens of thousands of pounds to suppliers, lack of accountability, failure to make payment. He was also obsessed with slot machines, playing them at motorway services and online on his work computer. If you met Jody, you wouldn't wish to meet a nicer man, said Anthony Brooks, who eventually bought one of his companies. But working with him turned out to be one of the worst experiences of my life. Accordingly, he would appear to operate with a facade of being a decent and kind person. Brooks said he had to pay off more than £30,000 in debt, undeclared by Oliver, lie by omission, when he bought part of Bet Marketing, as well as £3,000 Oliver owed to a car rental company. He also repaid a £20,000 loan for which he was Oliver's legitimate guarantor. Around the same time, Oliver developed a relationship with a Welsh car dealership. He acquired cut-price vehicles from the manufacturer and sold them on to the dealership, which eventually ordered more than £600,000 worth of vehicles from Oliver. They never arrived. Despite a civil court order, Oliver has not repaid the money. Lack of accountability, failure to attend to obligations. Dufford Powys investigated the case, But, I beg your pardon, Dyfed Powys Police investigated the case, concluding that there was no evidence of fraud. By now, Oliver was spending weekends away from his family, claiming to be the co-owner of Vaughan Brothers Funeral Directors, where he would do weekend death duty. The company had never heard of him. It is understood that Oliver was actually spending his weekends as Jonathan Kane in Tudor, 20 miles from the family home, telling people he was a police officer and that he had a boyfriend who gave him thousands of pounds to fund his policing exams. Accordingly, once again, he's telling lies. He's creating a new persona that he explains to people for the purposes of drawing reactions from them and asserting control over them, morphing into different individuals. But note that he has no difficulty in imposing, in effect, an absent silent treatment on his family by going elsewhere, spending weekends away from them. In part 2, the skullduggery of Mr. Oliver increases, enabling you to understand yet more of the narcissistic machinations that he engages in. Join me there.